You don't drink because something's wrong with you. You drink because you're stuck in a pattern. Patterns that no one talks about, like the pressure of being everything for everyone, the fear of disappointing people, or the shame of never feeling good enough no matter how hard you try. These hidden emotional loops don't show up on the surface, but they quietly run the show. And they're keeping you stuck in a cycle that has nothing to do with alcohol and everything to do with how you feel. If you've ever thought, why do I keep doing this when I know better? Then this episode is for you. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where we talk about the real work of getting sober and building a life you don't want to escape from. I'm your coach, Angela Pugh, and today we're digging into the emotional patterns that keep high-functioning people stuck in the drinking cycle, even when everything on the outside looks fine. We're talking about emotional patterns, specifically the hidden ones that keep you stuck in the drinking cycle, even when you know you want to stop. These patterns aren't loud, they're not dramatic, but they're persistent. They sneak into your habits, your self-talk, your daily routines, and before you know it, they're running the show. So here's how this episode is going to work. For each of the 5 emotional patterns I'll cover, I'm going to walk you through what the pattern is and where it comes from, what it sounds like, meaning what are the thoughts that your brain is telling you, or the stories you might be telling yourself, and why it's dangerous and how it quietly keeps you drinking. And then I'll give you a few reflection questions that you can sit with or journal on. These aren't the obvious triggers like parties or peer pressure. I'm talking about the invisible ones: people pleasing, perfectionism, chronic overwhelm, and that little voice in your head that tells you you're not doing enough. You don't need to resonate with all 5, but I guarantee you at least one will hit close to home. And when it does, I want you to lean into that. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that discomfort, that's where your breakthrough lives. So if you're ready to move past the I don't know why I keep doing this phase and into real awareness and emotional clarity, then this is for you. So let's get right to it. We're going to start with pattern number 1, the Peacekeeper Pattern. This is people pleasing. It's one of the most normalized emotional patterns out there, right? At its core, people pleasing isn't about kindness. It's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear that if you show up as your full, honest self, you'll be abandoned. So instead, you shapeshift, you bend, you overgive, you silence your own needs. You don't want to upset anyone, so you keep the peace, even at the cost of your own well-being. You say yes when you want to say no. You carry everyone else's needs on your back. You avoid conflict like the plague. And by the end of the day, you're so emotionally spent that reaching for a drink feels like the only relief you've got. This behavior looks selfless on the outside, but let's call it what it is. It's manipulation. You're managing people's reactions to you by editing yourself. You're not giving them the chance to really know you because you're too busy being nice. And here's the question I ask my clients who struggle with this. If no one existed in the world, who would you be? Because when your entire sense of worth is based on how others see you, your authentic self slowly disappears. You start to lose track of what you want, what you think, what you need. And that emptiness, that's where the craving lives. That's the drink whispering, let's just take the edge off. So here's how this shows up and what this pattern sounds like. Taking on too much at work, even when you're already drowning. Engaging in social situations you're not comfortable with to avoid judgment. Or silencing your emotions so you don't seem needy or like you're too much. And here's what the thoughts will sound like, right? It might be like, I don't want to rock the boat, or it's just easier if I do it myself. And this is how it keeps you drinking, because you're not just tired, you're emotionally bankrupt. You've said yes when you really wanted to say no. You've smiled when you wanted to scream. You've made yourself small for so long that alcohol feels like the only space where you get to take up room. And here's your journal prompts. Or this is just pause and reflection, right? Pause and reflect. That's what we have to do with all of these different things. So, like I said in the intro, you can either just sit with these and think about it, or you can use these to actually journal it out and make some real progress. So, here's your 2 questions. Where in my life am I being liked instead of being honest? And where am I saying yes when I really want to say no? Now let's move into number 2, the escape artist pattern. You don't actually want to drink, you want out of stress, out of the boredom, out of the crushing routine of responsibilities that leaves you feeling like a robot instead of a person. That's what this pattern is all about, emotional escape. Whether it's boredom, burnout, or just plain dread of what tomorrow brings, alcohol becomes your quick exit strategy. Because let's be honest, some days are exhausting between work, kids, meals, laundry, bills, and the constant noise in our heads. Who wouldn't want a break? But here's where it gets tricky. Most of us aren't just trying to escape the big traumatic moments. We're trying to escape the everyday dullness that makes life feel like it's on repeat. The thing about addiction is that at a certain point, you stop using alcohol to enhance life and you start using it to avoid life. You can find yourself watching the same videos over and over, scrolling mindlessly, zoning out with a glass in your hand. And instead of asking, what do I want more of in my life? You just turn up the volume on the buzz until you stop caring that you feel unfulfilled. We crave escape because, the human brain is brilliant, but it doesn't come with an off switch. We're constantly processing, analyzing, worrying. And alcohol quiets that noise fast. We use it to soften everything we don't want to feel: boredom, loneliness, anxiety, grief, the inner ache of feeling purposeless. Alcohol becomes the easiest way to not feel anything at all. And here's what this pattern might sound like. Your brain's going to say, I just need something to take the edge off. Or this is a big one, I deserve this. It's been a long day, or it's been a long week. I've earned it, right? That's what it sounds like. And here's why it keeps you drinking. You're not seeking pleasure. You're avoiding discomfort. That's a coping mechanism, not a character flaw. It offers instant relief, it numbs the discomfort, and it becomes the thing you look forward to, not as a reward, but as an escape route. And if left unaddressed, it creates dependency. And the truth is, you don't need a drink. You need your life to feel like something you actually want to be present for. So here's your pause and reflect questions. What part of my life have I stopped caring about because drinking makes it easier to ignore? And if I wasn't numbing this moment, what would I have to feel? And what might I be inspired to change? Okay, pattern number 3, the good girl pattern. You've been strong for so long that no one realizes you're falling apart inside. The good girl pattern is rooted in perfectionism and performance. You've spent your life being the one who gets it right. At work, at home, in relationships, you show up polished, capable, responsible, even when your inner world is barely hanging on. You don't give yourself permission to be messy, tired, or unsure. So instead of falling apart in front of people, you fall into a glass of wine behind closed doors. Here's why this pattern runs deep. This isn't just about high standards, it's about identity. You've probably been praised your whole life for how responsible you are, how put together you are. And somewhere along the way, you learned that love and approval are tied to your performance. That pressure can become unbearable. So drinking becomes the only time you don't have to perform. It's your moment to not care, to drop the mask, even if it's only for a little while. It keeps you drinking because when being the strong one becomes part of your worth, you don't know how to reset or ask for help or receive support. Alcohol becomes your shortcut to release, but it also keeps you locked in the role that you so desperately want to escape. And here's what this pattern will sound like. Your little brain is going to tell you, I don't have time to fall apart. Or if I don't keep it together, everything will fall apart. Or I need to be strong, or they need me to be strong, right? That's what those thoughts are going to sound like in this pattern. And here's your pause and reflect questions. What would happen if I stopped performing and started being real? And the second one is, who am I when I'm not trying to prove anything? Now let's move into number 4, the identity fog pattern. When drinking is a part of your personality, quitting feels like losing yourself. This pattern is all about confusion and disconnection. You've spent years, maybe even decades, being the fun one, the wine lover, the brunch queen, the one who's totally fine, handling everything with a drink in hand. Your social life, your friendships, even your relationship with your partner might have been built around alcohol. So when you start questioning your drinking, it doesn't feel like a habit change. It feels like an identity crisis. The real fear isn't losing the drink, it's losing who you are. You might wonder, will I still be fun? Will my partner still want me? Will my friends invite me to things if I'm not drinking? So you keep going, not because you love alcohol, but because you're afraid of who you'll be without it. It keeps you drinking because the drink becomes the anchor, something familiar in all the fog of uncertainty. Instead of discovering who you are without it, you cling to who you've always been with it. But the truth is, your identity isn't in the bottle. It's kind of buried underneath it, waiting for you to reclaim it. And here's what this pattern sounds like. Your brain's going to tell you, I'm just not the same without a drink, or who am I if I'm not the fun one, or drinking is just part of my personality. And here's where I want you to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what parts of myself have I been hiding behind the wine? And if I wasn't drinking to fit in or be fun, how would I show up differently? Okay, number 5, the control seeker pattern. You don't drink because you're out of control. You drink because you're trying to control everything else. You're the one who keeps the ship running. The schedule, the meals, the family dynamics, the emotional tone in the room, you're on top of all of it. Because if you let your grip slip, who's going to pick up the pieces? But here's the paradox. The tighter you try to control everything, the more chaotic you begin to feel inside. There's fear underneath control, right? The desire to control isn't bad. It's human. It's wired into us because the more we know, the more certain we feel. And the more certain we feel, the safer we feel. But when we can't predict or manage the outcome, when life throws curveballs, when people disappoint us, when emotions blow up, we feel vulnerable. And alcohol, that becomes the thing that lets us feel in control again, at least for the moment. The need to control is rooted in fear, specifically the fear of what might happen outside our control. When things don't go the way you tried to force them, that stress becomes unbearable. You feel like you're failing. You feel unsafe. And that glass of wine starts whispering, "You can't fix this, but we can numb it." And this pattern keeps you drinking because control is exhausting. And when you live in a constant state of high alert, eventually you're going to burn out and you're going to snap. And reaching for a drink feels like the only way to calm your nervous system and survive that moment. But letting go of control is what actually brings peace. It gives you back your energy, it softens your anxiety, and it frees up space to focus on what you can influence, which is your thoughts, your habits, your boundaries, and your healing. And this pattern will sound like, what's your brain going to say to you? It's going to say, if I can't do it, it won't get done right. Or I can't relax until everything is perfect. Or I just need to take the edge off. Your pause and reflect questions are, what am I so afraid will happen if I loosen my grip? And what would it look like to trust myself more and control less? These emotional patterns are powerful because they're often invisible. You don't wake up and say, today I'm going to lose myself in people pleasing, or let's overfunction until I snap and pour a drink, right? They operate in the background, shaping how you show up, how you cope, and how you see yourself. So whether it's the need to control or the urge to perform, the fear of losing yourself, or that desperate craving to escape, just know this: these patterns are not who you are. They're just stories your brain learned to survive. And now you get to rewrite them. If one or more of these patterns hit home, don't brush it off. Don't tell yourself, yeah, that sounds like me, and then go right back to spinning your wheels. This is the moment where you get to do something different. Because if you're tired of starting over, if you're sick of white knuckling your way through sobriety without real change, if you know deep down you're half-assing it and you're ready to actually do the real work, then I'm the person you call. I'm not here for surface level fixes, right? We get to the root of emotional patterns driving the drinking so you can finally get off that hamster wheel and move forward for good. So if you're done screwing around and done trying without results, schedule a call with me and let's see if we're a good fit to work together. We'll talk about what's keeping you stuck, what real transformation looks like, and how we can work together to make it your last day one. You can schedule that free call at addictionunlimited.com/call or click the link in the show notes. It's always in the show notes and you can book your call that way. You don't need to keep surviving. It's time to start living. And emotional sobriety starts not with perfection, but with powerful, tiny moments of awareness and making different choices. I love you guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you next week.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.